if your morality, the path of your morality led you to the same path that I'm on, then what was the point of the rules? I think this is what makes a good classical villain is that he does have flaws, but the way he kind of like sets himself up for success is always something I kind of feel like I related to. Just setting yourself up for success, whether he's doing, bad things to people or not along the way. That's not the point. The point is that he sets himself up for the success that he gets, and he gets the result. You have to play the game. If you don't play, it's an automatic loss. Like it's like losing in life. If you don't play, you don't win. Right? You could play and lose, but you could also play and win. If you don't play at all, you always lose.
And if you do that preparation, you're kind of weighting the coin in your favor at least.
Right. Do you have rewatchability? Like, is it entertaining? Is there something you planted in here that leads a little thread that you can go find later and trail yourself back to, and then makes them watch it all over again? All right, so like that's just something that's always constantly in my head.
Welcome to another electrifying episode of the Commentary Booth live via satellite, where we peel back the curtain on your favorite wrestlers and their cinematic inspirations. I'm your host, Jamie Apps, and today I'm venturing into the wild lands of Texas as I chat with a man who embodies the tension and violence as he prepares for Metroplex Wrestling's upcoming Texas Rumble on February 7th. Joining us live via satellite, none other than the former Metroplex champion, the Worldbreaker, Brick Savage. Welcome to the show.
Brett, appreciate you having me. Thank you.
My pleasure. How's things leading up to the Metroplex Texas Rumble?
I mean, they're pretty intense, man. Every time I show up to MPX, something goes not according to plan for everybody else. And last time I was there, it didn't really go according to plan for me. I feel like I was caught a little off guard there with what was happening. I show up, there's just a bunch of nonsense happening. So I'm the course correction of that, in my opinion. So leading into this Rumble here, I've got not necessarily a point to prove, but a point to shut people up. And I think it's time to put some fear back into people. I think they've forgotten, at least.
And a Rumble is a perfect place to showcase that and put a lot of people into check real quickly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Rumbles are probably one of my favorites because not only do I get multiple bodies I can yeet, right? I can stay there for as long as I want until I get bored. They get bored. It's usually, after about an hour or so, I'm like, okay, I've had enough of this. It's either got to end or, someone's going to get me out of here.
All right, so thanks for joining me on the show today to chat about sort of films and TV and their influence on your wrestling career. Mm-hmm. Before we deep dive into that, how big a part of your life are movies and TV?
I think films are a huge part of my life. I pretty much watch at least one film a day.
Oh, wow.
At least one, something. If I'm not watching a film, I'm watching a TV series or something. I think that type of media is transferable into pro wrestling. To get ideas from or get nuances of like what people are into, what they talk about, right? So in my opinion of like staying relevant and adapting and evolving in this big game here, you got to be able to reel people in, see what's relatable, right? I can't say I'm very relatable to many people. Like you can't really see myself or see yourself in my shoes. So I am a bit out of pocket a lot of the time. But, sometimes when that chaos is pointed in the right direction, it's chaotic good. And you're like, hell yeah, take care of that problem for us. And then on the same side of the deal, the opposite side of the coin is when that turns into chaotic evil and you're like, oh no, it's happening to me. I don't want it to happen to me. You do it to everybody else, but not to me. Then it becomes a problem, right? So you can't exactly have it both ways. Right, you got to accept both sides of that deal.
And I think that kind of feeds in really well to the movie that you've chosen to chat to me today about is No Country for Old Men, which has that kind of both sides of the chaotic good and the chaotic evil.
Yeah.
What is it about No Country for Old Men that is so special to you?
Man, it's it's a very old timey feeling movie that's really modern. You have your classic white hat versus black hat, good guy, bad guy.
Hmm.
You have the morally gray kind of individual that's not really evil, right? And then the aspect of people and animals all die the same, right? The line of if your morality, the path of your morality led you to the same path that I'm on, then what was the point of the rules,
Yep.
right? So like we're going in the same direction, we're getting to the same point. You're doing it your way, I'm doing it my way. So what's the difference? What's the difference? Right? And like Anton Chigurh is probably one of the most methodical people. You don't see him really kind of like break out of that deal in like surprising anger until like he kind of has to. He's kind of like cool, level headed, like thinking and always being 3 steps ahead. I think this is what makes a good classical villain is that he does have flaws, but the way he kind of like sets himself up for success is always something I kind of feel like I related to. Just setting yourself up for success, whether he's doing, bad things to people or not along the way. That's not the point. The point is that he sets himself up for the success that he gets, and he gets the result.
Yep. And I love how he's sort of almost like Terminator esque, where
Mhm.
you never see him rushing or having to chase after someone. He just knows if I just keep at this steady pace, I'll eventually get the result I want.
Right, he has the methodical deal with the coin flip. It's fair, right? It's a game of chance. It's fair. It could go one way or the other, right? I think that's also another relatable thing. Like you could have that same aspect of a decision you make going one way or the other, but it's also predicated on the success you put in front of that deal, right? If you set yourself up for the success, you're getting on the right path, you're going in the right direction. Some of the choices you make might lead you to, one direction or the other, but you still get to the same end goal, right? And when he gives people that same opportunity, you can't just not play the game. You have to play the
Mm.
game. If you don't play, it's an automatic loss. Like it's like losing in life. If you don't play, you don't win, right? You could play and lose, but you could also play and win. If you don't play at all, you always lose,
And if you do that preparation, you're kind of weighting the coin in your favor at least.
right? Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily believe in luck, but you start building up that anticipation, and it's another deal I got from someone. I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like the world doesn't owe you an explanation for anything, right? So in that aspect, that where you could think you have luck, it doesn't owe you an explanation for anything. So if you keep winning and you're just getting on that winning streak, right? It's by chance, but getting on that winning streak, makes you feel like you're lucky, and that
Mhm.
luck, that mentality, that mindset it puts you in sets you up for like positive affirmations, positive reinforcement, right? So if you start getting a losing streak, it does the same deal. You start feeling like, well, what am I doing wrong? You start putting in that self doubt, and then it starts creeping in, and it starts getting worse.
And then in terms of as a pro wrestler, what sort of preparation goes into being ready to go and put on these shows and events every week?
Man, for me, I'm always locked in the zone, always at all times, and the little details of what I do probably don't matter in the grand scheme of things, right? Like I could probably get to the same end goal. However, the thought process of like what little detail can I add to this deal to make this special, different, right? Feel more impactful, more memorable, right? Because most of the time people don't remember the full match. They'll remember those moments, the special moments that it created, those things that last a lifetime, right? So like that constant need to uh, fulfill that desire for myself always has me going, always has me thinking. It doesn't keep me stagnant. A lot of people get kind of stagnant, like, all right, well, it's time to go do this thing. And like they're just going by the, seat of their pants, going through the motions and stuff like that. I don't do that. I'm always thinking of like, what can I do to make this better, right? And whether it's a very small thing you don't catch right away, some people might, but you get to rewatch it and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even catch that. Or here's this thing that I'm looking at now, and how did we get here? And if I look back prior to, I'm like, oh, that's where it started, right? Those little Easter egg things are always fun, and that's another modern thing that I get from movies and stuff, right? From Marvel's a big one that throws a bunch of Easter eggs from comic books,
Hmm.
go look at this thing, go look at that thing, right? Here's a reference from this and that. A lot of movies do that, taking stuff from the book counterparts that they have. And it's the same aspect. Like, do you have rewatchability? Like, is it entertaining? Is there something you planted in here that leads a little thread that you can go find later and trail yourself back to, and then makes them watch it all over again? Right. So like that's just something that's always constantly in my head.
And you mentioned sort of book counterparts. Have you read the No Country for Old Men
I have
book by
not.
Cormac McCarthy?
No, I have not. I'm not a big avid reader. I have a slew of books of stuff. If I ever feel the inclination to do it, I do a little bit of reading, but um, I don't exactly read a lot of books that are adjacent to like movies for sure.
Yep.
I think that the visual media for me is a lot more easily consumable for my attention span, and stuff like that it sinks you in. I think the one really special thing about No Country for Old Men is that it doesn't have any music in it. The wind is like the music of the soundtrack.
Mm.
It's kind of crazy and unsettling, to be honest. And like that, you don't really kind of notice that deal until like you kind of get the grasp of like going through stuff. But you don't get that in reading a book, right? So like setting the scene for stuff, I think is really important for me when I watch things. And like, okay, all the scenes are set, and getting to see all the stuff, I get to kind of like feel all the different sensory things that I need to kind of lose myself in this media. And I don't really exactly get that from reading books.
Yep. Yeah, I will say No Country for Old Men, the film, is a really good adaptation of the book. Um, Cormac McCarthy books are also a little bit more difficult to read because he doesn't use like your typical punctuation and sentence structure. It's kind of all just train of thought, and it
Mhm.
can be a little bit tough. But his
Right.
other book, The Road, I highly recommend as well.
Yeah, I've gotten like I have a whole bookcase full of stuff of different things. Sometimes I grab some stuff and I'll read a couple chapters into it. I won't come back to it. I'll go read something else. But I just like watching the media so I can I just get lost into the idea of what's happening. And it gets me, that imagery and that, kind of meditation of like the media itself, versus like when I read, I have to focus and try to imagine this entire thing and what it's supposed to look like and all that stuff. And like I have a very vivid imagination, but trying to do the two things at the same time where I can just sit and watch it, and then my mind will do the thing for me, and then having to read it, comprehend what I'm reading, and then also create that visual aspect is a task. And I'm like, nah, I'll just rather watch it.
Yep. And so this film has a star-studded cast with Tommy Lee Jones, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, Woody Harrelson. Do you have a favorite performance from the film and one that you take kind of the most inspiration from?
Uh, it's hard to pinpoint one. The coin scene is probably one of my favorites for sure. When he goes to the store, talks to the old man there. Anton Chigurh does. But the whole kind of chase between Chigurh and Llewellyn for the money and getting to that deal, and the way Llewellyn just like dies. There's no kind of like extended. He was just like a normal guy. He wasn't evil, bad. But that chase of him trying to escape, right? Escape somebody who's always like ahead of the game, and just like constantly thinking he's having to adapt and get away. When that whole scene of him doing that between them two, I think I consider a lot, because most people can see themselves in Llewellyn really easily, right? Here's an
Mhm.
opportunity, take this opportunity. They don't really kind of like consider the consequences for those things, right? But Chigurh considers those consequences and then acts accordingly, right? He's proactive while Llewellyn is reactive, so he loses the game, right? Being a good villain is being proactive, right? So you're not waiting and reacting to the thing happening to you, right? You're being proactive of this thing. You're staying three steps ahead, right? Until eventually, in most stories, like the hero usually wins by capitalizing on the weakness from the villain and whatnot. But that aspect of that chase and being proactive and reactive is something I can call back to because of the way those two performed on the whole scene.
Yep. And that ultimate sense of hopelessness at the end when it's like the hero doesn't get the win is
Yeah,
pretty tough to watch, but
yeah,
and it's also extremely violent. Do
yeah.
you still recommend this to other people
Oh, absolutely,
in that sense?
absolutely, absolutely. I'm not someone who's shying away from violence. If that wasn't clear enough, and that's just the kind of reality we live in, right? I think that having a blanket over yourself where you're trying to kind of keep yourself away from the reality of things that happen doesn't do you any good because it doesn't prepare you. I'm not saying you have to go out and be the most violent person and watch all the violent things, but in this aspect of reality that you get to see these very real situations with these people that feel very real uh, go through this process, right? To having to think and what would you do in the situation? I'd highly recommend it. It's such a great movie. It's such a great movie. I highly recommend. I'd always do. So it's one of my favorite movies. Like as of like normal, I don't really watch a lot of horror movies.
Yep.
And this it kind of is a horror. It's like a thriller-ish deal, so it's kind of horror. Just how haunting and terrifying this guy can be doing the stuff he's doing. Right, it could fall into a horror movie category because just how terrifying he is.
Yeah, he's sort of almost Mike Myers esque
Right.
in terms of like
Mhm.
just unstoppable, just keeps moving forward no matter what you do to him. He's
Yeah,
just around the corner.
and that aspect of like horror and slasher movies, like those don't get scary after like 5 minutes. Like they're not scary after 5 minutes. Like you kind of get used to the deal. You're expecting this deal to happen, right? So like the idea of the unknown, uh, right? And like even if you expect Anton Chigurh to do this thing, he's going to do this thing, it still makes you terrified because you can't stop it. That's the part
Hmm.
that makes it more terrifying than just a hack and slash movie. Is that even though you know it's coming and it's going to happen, you can't do anything to stop it. Like you can't do anything. It'll freeze you in your tracks right there. So that's what kind of makes that more of an appealing deal for me.
Attention, trading card collectors! Are you ready to take your collection to the next level? Dive into the action with the limited edition Australian wrestling card, showcasing the most electrifying talents Australia has to offer. Imagine owning cards featuring legends such as Robbie Eagles, Shazza McKenzie, Shane Hayes, Madison Eagles, and many, many more. But that's not all. You'll also snag cards of the iconic referees, commentators, and announcers, just like me, Lord Andy Coyne, to truly capture the spirit of Australian independent wrestling. And as our homegrown talent continues to dominate the world stage, OzRest cards are destined to become hot commodities. Not only will you be owning a valuable piece of wrestling history, but you'll also be supporting the amazing wrestlers and talented photographers behind the magic. So don't wait! Grab your Australian wrestling cards now at pariomagazine.com.au/OzRes cards. Order today and kickstart your collection with a bang!
And then also, as a Texan, how do you feel this film depicts Texas?
Yeah. Uh, uh, yeah, I can kind of, yeah, yeah. Um, it's one of those things. I grew up in an area that had its fair share of crime, and there was an incident that was not even 4 minutes down the street from me, the Luby's incident, where this dude drove his vehicle into the Luby's, just started shooting everything. This is back before like people had concealed carry and stuff like that, or it was allowed more acceptable into places, and it's part of like your safety course too. As you take down here, that the lady had her firearm. She's good on it, used it, practiced it all the time. Uh, but this place said you couldn't take your gun inside, and then this deal happened, and she reached for it, didn't have it, had to put it in the car, could have it. I believe she lost both her parents in that incident, along with several other people who were murdered. But that instance kind of the Wild West, right? It's still prevalent, even if it's into like a modern deal. It's not straight cowboys and Indians kind of deal that you're watching those old movies. But the same thing is prevalent. There's you're still your good people and your bad people, right? And I think that's I wish it was different, but that's just the point in case where we are.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one of the things I like about this film a lot as well. Is it is that sort of Wild West, Western-esque, but in a modern era, and that's one thing that I like about it.
Yeah, and you get the main sheriff doesn't carry a gun. Like that's your old Andy Griffith feel, right? Doesn't carry a gun, doesn't want to scare people, right? Doesn't want to have people intimidated by the gun. They want to respect the man, right? And you
Mhm.
get that. You get all these aspects of this old school stuff in this modern way that is easily digestible. It's like you get to see these different aspects of these characters and their different moralities all lead to the same path, right? So one bad day could one bad apple screw one bad apple screws up a bunch. All that stuff you get to see that unfold in three different perspectives.
And one of the things I wrote down when I rewatched it over the weekend is Llewellyn maybe could have got away with taking the money initially if he never went back to the scene to try and help the guy that was left in the car.
Yeah,
He maybe could have got away, but the tracker probably would have eventually got him caught.
yeah. He tried to take
He tried to do the good thing and it backfired on him.
Yeah, and then along the way, he's not an evil person, so he makes these conscious choices to still do good, even though this is not a great choice that he made. But along the way, he's still trying to make do good for himself and like his own morality and stuff like that. And it cost him, like and it's one of those things that if sometimes you have to make the sacrifices. And this is not in the movie wise, but sometimes you have to make the sacrifices. Right, if you're going to make a choice to this deal, you got to be willing to do the sacrifices and the consequences that come with it. Right, so you got to be aware of those things. He wasn't fully aware that if I take this money, what's going to happen. Right, he just took the money and then tried to worry about it later, and later caught up to him sooner.
And then in terms of wrestling too, have you had to make like any sacrifices to get to the point where you are in your career as well?
More or less, yes. I'm not your conventional pro wrestler that's in this modern era where they're tied to one school or they got built up in a system of something. I was taught the old school way, by this guy who was taught by this guy, kind of thing, right? Carrying over that old school legacy of stuff, and that aspect intimidates people. It puts people, it backs them up, and the fact that they can't hold anything over me, it pisses them off.
Mhm.
Right, so I've had to make choices that were going to piss people off, and serve those deals, and then when you put in the amount of effort to still keep going and pushing and making yourself undeniable, it shoves it back in their face, and then they have to accept it. And then they come back and they're like, you know what? I guess maybe we can do business together, right? See, like you're doing all this work, and they want to catch a hold of that deal and go along for the ride. So I made handful of sacrifices and choices where if I do this thing, it's going to lead down this path where like we're essentially burning a bridge, more or less. It doesn't bother me at all because I could be doing something else. The fact that I'm still good, I'm good at this deal and I'm doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it until I feel like I'm done doing it. Right? It just pisses people off. That just makes me want to do it more.
Mhm. So then, as we sort of close out the episode, what's the best piece of advice you've been given in terms of finding wrestling inspiration, influence, or developing a wrestling persona?
I don't know if anybody's given me specific advice about developing a persona. This is all stuff that I've built on my own, and I would say once you kind of get your feet running and you're going and you got your movement down and stuff like that, uh, you got to dig inside of yourself to figure out which path you want to take. What's your actual purpose of doing this thing, right? What's your motivation? And if your answer is just to wrestle, then it's boring. People want to be entertained. They want to see. That's why they go to the movies. They want to be entertained by entertainers, right? You want to see the wrestling too. You want to be good at that, but being able to dig inside of yourself, not just create something out of thin air, dig inside of yourself and pull something out of you that feels natural and proactive rather than reactive, right? And then that when you get a hold of that, that's when you start fine tuning the details, right? So like turn yourself up to 11, like they say, right? Find the things that are related to the aspects of your character that you built that feel natural to you, right? Find the adjacent, aspects of that. Like I have, some things that are, mental health kind of concerns, right? That I found adjacent to the situational problems that I've gone through, that I've had, and use that aspect to turn that up quite a bit. And that's what you get. It took a minute to develop that deal because you're having to, do this live action sequence of stuff and also do this idea in between those moves to get that point across and have people understand who you are as a wrestler, not just that you can wrestle. And it took a minute to get a hold of that deal, but once you start fine tuning things, you're like, okay, this worked, that doesn't, this worked, that doesn't, take that out, put this in, right? You start getting to fine tune those details, it makes things a lot easier for you. But in my opinion, the more details you have to call back on, the easier it kind of makes things, right? Easier to kind of pinpoint your motivation for stuff. Like sometimes I just do things just because it's a Tuesday. I just got the power to do stuff on a Tuesday, right? And that terrifies people, right? Like I said before, like that idea of the unknown and knowing it's going to happen to you, but you can't do anything about it. It's terrifying, right? And that me being so strong is an aspect of myself that most people don't have. And that strength is crazy. That intensity is just crazy. Like you don't think it's going to happen to you until it happens to you, and you feel some type of way about it.
Yeah, if you get your hands on someone, there's nothing they can do about
Yeah.
it. Like they're going for a ride.
Yeah, and that's half the I'm not the fastest, but I'm pretty fast. So you have to be very quick, elusive, right? Try to get me before I get you. And if I get a hold of you, then that's when it goes downhill for you. Maybe you can escape it, maybe you can't. Maybe you can survive it, maybe you can't. Right? So that's the aspect of being this crazy storm, this force of nature of a character. Not everybody can do it because it's not a natural deal to them, but that's fine. Find what's natural to you. Find what makes it easier for you. Easy to talk, easy to walk. You don't have to think about it. If you're having to think about it every time you're on camera, then that's not who you are.
And then as we look ahead, like I mentioned, you're currently preparing for the Metroplex Texas Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any particular people that you have targets set on?
You know what? Sky Dela Cremosa is on number one on my list. Like I mentioned before, he's made some choices and he has to suffer the consequences for them. I'm the consequence of those actions. JD Griffey, I'm not really too worried about. He's getting on my nerves in his version of whatever Set 6 is. The original Set 6 people, I think we're on good terms. And that's kind of cool with me for the moment right now. I know we've had our issues and our problems, but at this time, we're kind of chill. So I might leave them alone for a little bit until I have to do what's necessary. Brother Kaimi is another one. That little man has a complex on him, right? And I think we have some unfinished business to attend to for sure.
And then, so for fans here in Australia, what makes Metroplex different from promotions around the US, and why should we look out and check out these shows?
MPX is a weekly show, so you're putting in at least 4 times the amount of effort than most shows are doing because you're doing 4 shows in a month. Most people usually do once a month, once every other month. So they're putting in extra effort to not only have good storylines and stuff, but also constantly keep doing entertaining storylines and have entertaining people come in and out of MPX. So there's some up and coming people that have gone through there that are now signed on TV and stuff like that. And there's people that are on TV come over to MPX. Athena is one of the owners of MPX, right? She's a forever Ring of Honor champion, and she's on a phenomenal run with that, right? So those you get to see different people, all types of walks of life, on top of different promotions and different levels of promotions that come in and out of there. So I think it's one thing that makes them really special is the varying level of talent they have in and out of that ring.
And I guess, that weekly schedule makes it a lot easier to tell sort of longer term, really cohesive stories because it's not big gaps in between each episode, essentially.
Right. And I'm not there every week, right? So, like, you get the kind of like special attraction moment for me when I do get to come in and I get to do stuff right there. You get a little bit more focus, right? So you're not getting the same type of storylines with every person. You get your main roster that's there every week, and their detailed stuff that they get to spread across. My stuff gets spread across around a certain amount, so you get a varying amount of stuff without it kind of feeling stale.
You mentioned Athena as well, joining the ownership group. What sort of advice or influence has she been able to impart on the roster since joining the team?
I think a very positive one, for sure. She has quite a ton of experience being in different companies, different top level companies, and that aspect of getting to the next level and her getting to not only share that with the students of MPX, but those she gets to watch when she's at the shows, when she has time in her busy schedule to be at the shows, be present, and talk to you, for these things, make this adjustment, try to work on this, here's some things that, these companies are looking for that you can work on. These are stuff that's in your control that you can work on, right? So having that kind of expert level advice, I think is one of those really important things that Athena gets to share to some of these younger people that are in the business.
And I imagine her involvement has brought a lot more eyes onto the promotion as well.
Yeah, and it's good. They have they've done 2 Women Run the World showcase shows that have gone great, and now there's a Joshi tournament. The first Joshi champion. I think that's such a great aspect to having a women's show that has this tournament focused on specifically women, right? And having this kind of, to showcase this kind of American Joshi thing that she's carried over and been working on herself, and just making it into a tournament deal to showcase other talent and, crown the first champion for that deal. I think that's one of the most fantastic advancements here in the business for sure.
So then, as we close out and turn it back onto you, where is the best place for people to support you and track your wrestling journey moving forward?
Instagram is the main place that I'm on. So you get all the updates, especially when I get them. And that's at Worldbreaker Savage. You can follow me on Facebook at Brick Savage. And even on YouTube, if you want to catch some of the creative projects that I'm working on, you can watch the stuff that I'm uploading here, because right now I'm working on this documentary series with some people, and you get several different levels of aspects of not just wrestler but creative work as well. So those are the 3 main places.
Brilliant. We'll link all of those in the description below, but thank you for joining me on the show, and thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth live via satellite. If you've enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow me on social media at JamieAppsMedia and at Pario Magazine. And once again, Brick Savage, thank you for joining me on the show, and good luck in the Metroplex Rumble.
Man, thank you. Appreciate it. I don't need luck.